If you're like me, the stock market is not always easy to understand. Even individual stocks sometimes are incredibly confusing, but usually over time, you can figure them out. So Tesla at this moment and after hours is moving with its Mag 8 peers, more or less, some more, some upper, some are down more than others. And about the same as usual with a 2 times the NASDAQ. And that's, if you go through the entire week so far, up to Wednesday through after hours, that is what Tesla has done. And that's what I predicted. Now, sometimes it's gone faster and sometimes slower, but overall, it's pretty much exactly gone 2 times the NASDAQ. But unfortunately, the NASDAQ's been headed down. So we'll talk about the Ford agreement with the United Auto Workers. We'll also talk about the surprise reaction to the Meta earnings call and more. This is Randy Kirk. Hit like and subscribe and notify. And, tomorrow morning, bright and early, we'll hit this thing again and we'll do the overnight news as usual. And we'll also take a look at that first 10 minutes or so of the market. And at 7:10 Pacific Daylight Time, you can check out what is happening, and maybe even you'll be interested in how I analyze it anyway. Then you could join Patreon. Thank you so much for another Patreon member joining today. And you can also, of course, get some freebies, the camo bottle opener, etc. All right, listen. Ford got their tentative agreement with United Auto Workers, and they caved. Man, did they cave, all the way to a 25% wage increase over 4 years. 11% of that will be in the first year. And that doesn't account additional benefits that are, my understanding is, at about 5% to that. That's a pretty significant, 16% raise in the first year. Wow. And the Ford folks have been saying that this is like they can almost afford it. And I can understand how they could maybe almost afford that kind of an increase. Anyway, this will now go to a union vote. I don't know. I guess it'll probably pass. That would be my guess. Ford is up 2.5 in the after hours. Now, I guess, it's better to have a settled thing with the United Auto Workers than to stay on strike, because you're losing money every single day on the strike. But I don't know if this settlement is worth an increase in the price in the after hours. So I don't know. Maybe they've already priced in that they thought it would be around this number, and that's why it's now going up, is because, okay, it's settled, we can move on. Uncertainty, again, is always the thing the market hates the most. And so the uncertainty is less now because, of course, the union will probably vote to approve. Anyway, I don't know somehow if this might be looked at as bad for Tesla, because Tesla was doing much better than the rest of the market earlier today. And even in the after hours was not down as much as the other Magnificent Seven or as much as the NASDAQ. But then after the Ford after Ford announced their agreement, it seemed as if Tesla moved down more then. Don't know if it was related, might have been something else, but I don't see how this hurts Tesla. In fact, I think it helps Tesla. Anyway, now look, as a Tesla fan, you actually do have to have a bit of empathy for Meta today and for Google yesterday. They both beat handily, I mean, big time, but then got slammed. I mean, slammed for stuff you had to dig to find. For Google, it was their slipping market share in cloud storage, and they got blasted. I mean, their numbers are big time down. For Meta, it was their massive loss on the Metaverse project and their uncertain guidance on revenue. They said due to the conflict in the Middle East that ad revenues were heading down because of that. So they also, I mean, a solid beat, stock was up, and then no, it's down and down. I mean, down. Okay. So in fact, it's down more in the after hours than Tesla is. So very interesting. So feels a little familiar, huh? We're not the only ones that go through this. All right. So Troy Teslike is running a little poll on X, and he's wondering if folks think Tesla should shoot for 2 million vehicles in 2024. And he thinks they'd have to, they could raise prices if they were only going to go for 2 million next year. He thinks maybe they could go for 2.1 million and keep their prices the same, or they could lower their prices and shoot for 2.2 million. So to me, I think that's asking the question slightly the wrong way. What is your production capacity without too much risk? In other words, can you add to current production capacity without too much risk? Risk, like, for instance, in Berlin, if you put people on a third shift and you hire 500 people for that shift, and then you have to lay them off, that's a pretty significant risk. You put out the outlay to hire and train them, and then if you lay them off, you got another outlay, because in Germany, it's a big deal. But maybe not so much of a risk in Texas to make that same decision. Anyway, I'm a Tony Seba adherent, and Tony Seba believes that once you've hit the S-curve, the demand is kind of going to take care of itself. So therefore, we would look for a 50% increase in overall demand next year, and Tesla has to grow pretty close to that 50% in order for the market to have enough vehicles. Okay, because there's not, General Motors just cut back. I don't see Ford going crazy and making lots of vehicles. Where are the vehicles going to come? Toyota's not going to make them. Honda's not going to make them. Where are these vehicles going to come from? So if there's a huge demand for a value proposition for a good, as Elon likes to say, a compelling product at a compelling price, if there's a demand for that, then it would seem like we're not looking at 2.1 or 2.2 million or 2.0 next year. We're looking at 2.3 to 2.5. And I know I've said that before. So on the one hand, I am going to really pay attention to what Troy Teslike says with regard to production capacity, but I'm not 100% in his camp with regard to shipments. Now he hit it out of the park this last year at 1.8 million, but I don't really believe that going into the year he would have known that interest rates were going to slam the marketing side. They were going to, in other words, yeah, you can look at all the numbers around and see where production capacity is, but it's very hard to know what markets are going to do. And markets can change radically in a very short term. We've certainly seen that a few times before. Anyway, I am going to continue to believe that we are going to do way better than any one of those three numbers. If you want to vote in the poll, go on X and find that under his Troy Teslike's handle. Anyway, I did have a little more to say on this. So there could be market demand issues that are more specific. Like, for instance, maybe there's not, let's take the Midwest. I was reading an article today about somebody that was saying, well, Tesla doesn't have the car for the Midwest. The truck is the car for the Midwest. And yeah, that's somewhat true, but there's a lot of sedans being sold in the Midwest. And then this article went on to say what I've been saying over and over and over again is that the Midwest folks don't like to be browbeaten into buying anything, and they feel like they're being browbeaten into buying BEVs. But at a certain point, you look at the Honda Accord and you look at the Model 3 and you go, no, I'm going to get a Model 3. I'm okay. I can deal with my friends calling me an elitist for that difference. Anyway, or too green or something. Anyway, I think the markets will be there. That's just me. We'll find out. Time will tell. All right, bonds are not holding their own. 10-year yields have been down a little bit in the after hours. They were, as you know, they were way up, 11.7 at one point, closed basis points, closed like 10.5 or 10 point something over, the previous day. So I guess, the reality is that we're looking at the bonds now, trying to decide where they're going to go. And of course, a big part of this has to do, as I spent a lot of time on an earlier video today, spent a lot of time talking about, is there a supply-demand issue? Lots and lots of supply, not enough demand, just for that kind of an instrument, of a financial instrument, of a place to park your money. It is supposed to be a place where people run for security. It's the second most secure thing you can do is U.S. Treasuries. But there's a lot of folks like the Chinese and the Fed that are not buying bonds right now. And so maybe the Fed has actually said the words, hey, maybe the bond market is going to do the work for us. We won't have to raise the Fed rates anymore because the bond yields are taking care of it. They're up there anyway, and they're going to slow down the overall economy as a result of that. Anyway, we'll see. We'll see what happens over the next few days. But I think the PCE on Friday should completely collapse the interest rates. And create a bond rally. We'll see. So Tesla is sitting at 208 in the after hours. That's the last time I checked. Are we going to test 200 tomorrow? A lot of people have been asking that question online. If we get a good print on the PCE Friday, we should get a rally that moves up everything. And that should be Tesla too. But there could be I'm going to leave some room in my thinking right now with regard to this whole business of whether the bonds got a supply problem, demand supply problem that is outside of the issue of what the Fed does and outside of the issue of where the business cycle is, how the economy is doing. It might just be a supply demand issue, which can only be solved one way. And that would be the Fed would have to step in and stop quantitatively tightening or start quantitatively easing and buying some of those bonds. Whatever happens, one thing to keep in mind is a lot of these transitional issues don't happen all at once. Sometimes it takes weeks or months to play out. So if I were you, and I'll do this for you if you watch my program every day, but I'm going to be watching this. I'm going to continue to watch this 10-year bond very, very closely. Anyway, I continue to believe that we're going to have a good number for the PCE on Friday. I know you know that about me. And then, hey, check out the video I did just a few hours ago for a much deeper look at the bond issue and also the very important. You can't take your eyeballs off the housing situation either. I will put that video card right here. And then let me know in the comments, will tomorrow be a bloody day for the whole market and for Tesla, maybe Tesla checking out 200, or will the bargain hunters come in and the market start moving into greener pastures? And maybe this was a one-day blip with regard to the bond yields. Maybe those will be down again tomorrow. Anyway, what do you think? You have any thoughts about what you think is going to happen tomorrow? And then maybe some comments on my idea. I'm thinking about having this kind of a show that I just did right now, a little, 15-minute, 20-minute thing late in the day, like at this time, like 5:30, and I'd have a different partner on every day, a different co-conspirator, people you already know, people I've had on the show before, who might be on each one on a different night, and we would converse and have our differing opinions about all of these issues. Do you think that'd be a good show? Let me know in the comments below what you think about that. And then join Patreon, and buy the camo. Well, buy the camo or the regular, doesn't matter. Buy the Cybertruck bottle openers, and all that information is below down in the description. So please go on down there, check it out, and then place your orders. Thank you so much for supporting the channel. I appreciate you all. And as always, it has been great talking to you tonight.